The first time I saw it, Earth looked harmless. A soft blue sphere wrapped in white vapor, its continents bathed in the soft gold of Sol's light. No orbital fortresses, no energy grids, not even a moon array for defense. To our sensors, it was nothing more than a primitive biosphere, a remnant world from a forgotten age. And yet, it watched us. Our navigators had crossed this system countless times. Trade vessels, scout fleets, even scavengers, all drifted past the third planet without incident. The Admiralty marked it long ago, unarmed, unclaimed, unimportant. But recently, odd reports reached the Council. A Zarth cruiser, gone without trace after entering Sol's heliosphere. A probe vaporized, its debris raining down through the atmosphere in perfect symmetry, as if disassembled. Our analysts called it coincidence. But coincidences do not erase ships from space-time. I remember standing in the observation dome, gazing at that silent world. The light from Sol shimmered against our hull, and I felt resistance. Like the universe itself refused to let us closer. Then came the signal. It arrived on an open frequency. No encryption, no demand for response. The voice was unmistakably human. Calm, yet absolute. Do not trespass. We remember, 4 words. That was all. No threat. No explanation. Just that impossible stillness afterward. The bridge fell silent. Even the hum of our reactors seemed to hesitate, as if the ship itself feared to move. Our commander tried to laugh it off. A ghost transmission. Ancient code. Ignore it. But his voice trembled. From that moment, Earth was no longer a planet. It was a question. One no species dared to answer. I was chosen to find the truth. Observer class rank. Non-combat mission. Go to Sol, they told me. Verify what remains of humanity. As my vessel slipped past Neptune's orbit, the sensors began to distort. Static cascaded across the displays. I saw signals, billions, flickering from Earth's surface, languages, music, whispers. Not random noise. Memory, a living archive. A planet dreaming. The closer I came, the louder it grew. Not sound, but presence. Every frequency pulsed in rhythm, like a heartbeat echoing through the void. My crew whispered that the planet was aware of us, watching. I wanted to believe that was superstition, that humans were long gone, their world left defenseless. But then the clouds parted, revealing the cities below, broken, overgrown, yet humming faintly with energy, and in that moment, I realized something that froze my blood. Those cities were not ruins. They were waiting. I ended the transmission and turned toward the captain's chair, words caught in my throat. Report? The Admiral asked. I looked back at the glowing sphere below and whispered the only truth I knew. It's not defenseless. It's aware. The Admiral frowned. Explain. But before I could speak, every sensor on the ship went dark, one by one. Like eyes closing. Outside the viewport, the blue world blinked once, as if in acknowledgement. And in that silence, I understood why no one ever came back from Sol. The Council called me paranoid. They said I was chasing ghosts, echoes of extinct savages who'd burned themselves out long before our ascension. But curiosity is a disease, and I had already caught it. After returning from Sol, I descended into the archive vaults, deep beneath the capital moons of Threxia Prime. The air there tasted of metal and old data, the scent of forgotten wars. Rows of crystalline storage columns pulsed faintly with ancient light, files that had not been opened in centuries. When I entered the restricted sector, the archivist stared at me with unease. Why study them? She asked. Humans are myth. Because myths, I replied, don't send messages across the stars. The first record I opened was incomplete, static-ridden and corrupted. But through the distortion, I saw movement, metal storm fronts, raining tungsten spears onto alien strongholds, moons cracking open under the force of kinetic bombardment. And amid the chaos, human soldiers, fragile and small, moving through fire as if pain were irrelevant. The more I read, the more impossible it became. In one war, they fought the Orlick swarm for 90 years, and won. In another, they turned their own dead into warriors, embedding consciousness in steel, refusing to yield even after flesh failed. Every conflict ended the same, Either total victory or extinction. Never surrender. But the strangest part wasn't their ferocity. It was their disappearance. After something called the Exodus event, all records of them simply stopped. Not destroyed, erased. I traced the data trails through forbidden networks until I found the Varn Dominion relics, the kind of files scholars are executed for opening. I decrypted them under blackout conditions, using AI firewalls to mask my location. Inside was the truth no one wanted to see. Footage, raw, unaltered. From the last day humanity stood among the stars, they weren't defeated. They were leaving. Their fleets, hundreds of thousands of ships, gathered near the Soul Gate, engines silent, formation perfect. Then as one, they broadcast a final message. We will sleep. The galaxy is not ready. Moments later, they shut everything down. Fleets vanished into deep storage. Communication grids went dark. Artificial suns dimmed. It wasn't a retreat. It was hibernation. Earth's defenselessness was never a weakness. It was camouflage. A stage set to fool the arrogant. A trap built for the curious. I compiled my findings into a report. Evidence, visuals, timelines. I stood before the Council of 12 and presented it with trembling hands. When I finished, the chamber was silent, then laughter. Preposterous, said High Consul Varen. You expect us to believe an extinct species faked its own disappearance? With respect, I said, I don't think they disappeared. I think they're watching. That silenced the room. Varen's eyes narrowed. You've been too close to their system. The human myth is infecting your judgment. My credentials were revoked the next morning. My access terminated. Officially, I was reassigned to low-priority stellar observation. Unofficially, I was exiled. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. About the precision, the silence, the intent. Humanity hadn't fallen. They'd stepped aside, waiting for the galaxy to forget the cost of underestimating them. That night, as I lay beneath the dark glass of Threxia's sky, the stars shimmered faintly, and one of them blinked. Not twinkled, blinked, as if something vast and ancient had just opened its eye. And I knew without doubt that the humans hadn't gone anywhere. They were simply letting us believe they had. They called it Operation Silent Approach, an elegant title for an act of arrogance. After I was dismissed, the Threxian High Command decided to prove me wrong. If Earth is not defenseless, they reasoned, then let us see what defends it. They assembled a small team, 2 xenobiologists, a pair of Marines, a diplomat, and a pilot. 6 souls, hand-picked from the most disciplined divisions of the Combine. Their orders, land, observe, report. Nothing more. I was ordered to monitor the mission feed from the orbital relay. My objections were ignored. The Admiral's parting words still echo in my mind. Science, not superstition, will end this nonsense. Their shuttle cut through Sol's storms like a silver dagger, its hull streaked by lightning. The atmosphere fought them. Clouds boiled and swirled, laced with strange electrical patterns. It was as if the planet itself objected to their descent. When they broke through the storm layer, the surface came into view, breathtaking, tragic. Ruins stretched as far as the eye could see, spires of metal and glass consumed by vines, oceans reclaiming the coasts, and fractured highways twisting like skeletons of titans. Yet beneath the decay, there was beauty, a quiet kind of defiance, as though humanity's absence was only temporary. They landed on a shattered plateau overlooking a drowned city, one our databases named New York. The diplomat's voice filled the relay. Atmospheric composition stable. Radiation minimal. No sentient life detected. Beginning surface scan. Then, movement. A lone figure emerged from the shadows of a collapsed tower. No armor, no weapon. Only a ragged coat fluttering in the wind and eyes that glowed faintly under the dull light. The diplomat froze. Unidentified human form approaching. Awaiting instructions. I leaned closer to the feed, my heart's pounding. The sensors registered no heat signature, no heartbeat, no biological rhythm, only static interference where the being stood. "Identify yourself," the diplomat called out. The human smiled, calm, patient, almost compassionate. Then, in perfect Threxian dialect, he spoke. "We warned you." Instantly, the shuttle's systems screamed. Power flux, communication blackout. Every reading spiked at once. The Marines shouted over the comms, panic rising. Monitors filled with distortion. I saw the pilot wrenching at the controls, shouting something I couldn't hear. Then, silence. Every system went dark. I stared at the blank display, praying for signal recovery. Then, a single image flickered through, static framed, blurry. The human face again, staring directly into the camera. I swear it saw me. For one heartbeat, I forgot to breathe. The feed cut out completely. All 6 crew gone. No debris, no transmission, no return beacon. The council declared it a technical malfunction. But I knew better. I replayed that final frame for hours, studying the human's expression. That faint, knowing smile. It wasn't anger or malice, it was disappointment, a warning fulfilled. Earth wasn't abandoned. It wasn't dead. It was a graveyard with sentinels unseen, guarding memories we were too foolish to respect. That night, as I filed my report, every sensor in our orbital station flickered once, just once, before stabilizing. And through the static, I heard a whisper across the comms. Observation terminated. At first, we thought it was static, a ripple of cosmic noise echoing through the void. But the pattern was too deliberate, too rhythmic. It repeated every 40 seconds, pulsing through subspace like a heartbeat. Origin. Sol system. The same coordinates where our first contact team vanished. I sat in the observation deck as the wavefront rolled through our sensors, a low hum that vibrated through the hull. Through my bones, the technicians panicked, shouting over one another. "It's just electromagnetic distortion. Solar flare interference." But I knew better. I'd seen this code before, buried deep within the old archives. It was human. The pulse carried fragments of an ancient encryption language, obsolete even in the pre-Alliance era. When decoded, the message resolved into 4 chilling words. Protocol. Reawakening sequence. Initiate. Within hours, the galaxy convulsed. Across 3 quadrants, dormant satellites blinked to life. Forgotten probes hidden in asteroid fields began transmitting again. And then, the impossible. From beneath Earth's oceans, shapes began to rise. The first detection came from the Pacific sector, a mass of metallic signatures breaking the surface in formation. Cameras caught glimpses of black hulls, scarred by time yet perfectly operational. Soon more emerged, from ice, sand, even beneath the ruins of human cities. Ancient warships, long thought lost to legend. They rose without sound, water cascading off their armored skins, engines igniting with a dull crimson glow. "Automated systems," whispered the analyst beside me. "No life signs, no crew, but the ships moved with precision, military precision." From the moon's surface, buried installations erupted with light as hidden silos opened for the first time in millennia. Dust plumed into the void, revealing sleek, angular silhouettes beneath the regolith. Lunar command bastions, once myths, now awake. Our deep space telescopes captured the fleet assembling in orbit. Hundreds, then thousands. A ghost armada, rising from a grave of silence. "Earth has no active fleet," our intelligence chief muttered, his voice trembling. "It can't." But the evidence glowed before us, steel and fury reborn. Then came the data feed. The ship's transponders broadcast a single line of code. No variations, no errors. Directive Alpha, defend humanity, always. It wasn't a signal to attack. It was a declaration. Empires across the galaxy scrambled to respond. Fleets mobilized. Trade routes were sealed. Propaganda waves flooded every network. Contain Sol, quarantine Earth. But beneath all the bravado was fear. The kind that seeps into bones and corrodes courage, because we all remembered what humanity had once done to those who threatened them. That night, The High Council convened an emergency session. I stood among them, silent as projections of Sol's orbit filled the chamber, hundreds of glowing red dots circling Earth in perfect synchronization. "Are those ships?" a counselor whispered. I shook my head slowly. "No, not ships." The resolution sharpened, and my blood ran cold. They were satellites. Thousands of them, their lenses glowing like watchful eyes, orbiting in endless formation, each one powered by reactors older than our species. Each one looking outward. The chamber fell into horrified silence. For the first time in the Threxan Empire's history, I heard the High Consul whisper the word no warrior had ever dared speak aloud. Retreat. I returned to the observation deck, alone, watching the planet below. Through the veil of clouds, I saw flickers of red light. Thousands, synchronized, pulsing in the rhythm of a heartbeat. Earth was awake again. And the galaxy would never sleep. Fear travels faster than light. Within a single rotation, every major communications grid in the galaxy had carried the same story. Earth had awakened. No one could verify the details, but no one needed to. The idea alone was enough. On Threxia Prime, markets collapsed overnight. Investors fled to the outer colonies. Freight guilds suspended all routes that even passed near. Soul smugglers, creatures who'd risked wormholes and wars for profit, refused to go within 10 parsecs of the blue planet. The phrase, "the humans are stirring," became a curse whispered in every starport. Yet, nothing happened. No fleets emerged from Sol, no warnings, no invasions, no retaliations. Only silence, an oppressive, unnatural quiet that suffocated the galaxy, armies mobilized with no enemy to fight. Fleets drifted on standby. It was the kind of quiet that breaks even the bravest minds. Then came the emergency summit of Arcus Prime. Representatives from 70 empires gathered under a single dome of mirrored glass. The chamber was thick with tension. Every species smelled of fear. The holographic map of Sol spun slowly in the center, surrounded by nervous eyes. "Should we strike first?" Someone barked. "Containment protocols?" Another shouted. "Negotiation?" A few whispered, as if the word itself were blasphemy. No one dared to vote. An aged general from the Varn Dominion stood up. His voice quivered through his translator. "I fought them once," he said. "In the first human war. You cannot contain what does not yield. If they remember us, we're already dead." The silence that followed was absolute. I sat at the observer's table, unseen but listening. Every instinct told me to remain quiet, but the ambassador beside me turned, eyes sharp as plasma glass. "You were there," she said. "You've seen their world." "Tell us, historian, what did you see?" The room shifted toward me, 1,000 alien gazes pressing down like gravity. For a long time I couldn't speak. How could I explain that the planet itself seemed alive? That I'd felt it watching? That one wrong word might awaken something that should never have slept? Finally, I whispered, "They're waiting." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "Waiting for what?" someone demanded. I looked up at the holographic Earth spinning slowly, its oceans gleaming like cold glass. "To see if we've changed," I said. "They warned us once before. We didn't listen. Now, they're testing our memory." The council chamber erupted. Fear, disbelief, denial. Armored guards tensed as shouting filled the air. And above the chaos, the hollow display flickered, just for an instant. A distortion in the projection. I froze. Within the spinning blue sphere, a faint red light blinked. Once. The hologram stabilized again, returning to normal, but I knew what I saw. A signal, small, deliberate, like a heartbeat pulsing through the void. Perhaps it was coincidence. A glitch. But as I left the summit hall, I glanced at the night sky through the viewport dome. Far across the stars, in the direction of Sol, a pinprick of crimson flared for just a moment, and went dark again. The message was clear. Even unspoken. We're still watching. The truth was buried, not erased. Deep within the forbidden vaults of the Threxan historical core, beneath layers of encryption older than empires, I found it. A single file sealed under a name spoken only in whispers. The Orion Pact collapse. It took me days to bypass the firewalls, each one pulsing like a living organism, coded to resist intrusion. Whoever locked this file didn't just want it hidden, they wanted it forgotten. When I finally broke through, the lights in my chamber dimmed. The air itself seemed to tighten, as if the archive was holding its breath. The recording flickered to life, a chorus of alien voices, desperate, unified, echoed through the static. 73 species swearing alliance, forming the Orion Pact. Their target? Humanity. The feed shifted. Battlefields across 1,000 skies. Cities burning, moons cracked open, armadas dissolving into plasma, but the humans, they didn't plead, they didn't retreat. They evolved, their ships weren't made, they grew. Metallic veins pulsed with light, hulls reshaping mid-combat, absorbing enemy fire as though it were nourishment. Soldiers merged with machines, symbiotic and unstoppable, and when they died, their neural ghosts took control of their weapons, fighting on without flesh. The more I watched, the colder I felt. These weren't wars, they were extinctions. The recording cut to a single image, a human fleet drifting in silence, victorious, yet broken, their leader standing before a transmission console. His eyes were hollow, his voice eerily calm. "We will sleep until you need saving," he said, "or until you forget why you should fear us." Then, silence. The footage ended with coordinates. Sol system, and the seal of the Orion Pact dissolved into static. For a long time, I couldn't move. My breathing felt too loud. That message had been sent millennia ago, but it wasn't history. It was prophecy. Because we had forgotten. And someone, perhaps my own people, had awakened them. I cross-referenced the data, and the pattern emerged. Every incursion, every probe that vanished near Earth, all traced back to attempts to mine pre-war artifacts, to steal what the humans had left behind. Each disappearance was not an accident, but a consequence. The humans had warned us once, then they'd gone silent. But their silence wasn't peace. It was patience. I turned off the recording and sat in the dark. Above me, through the thin glass of the orbital window, I could see Sul faintly in the distance. A small blue star glowing on the map, quiet, unassuming, but I knew now that glow wasn't the light of a sun. It was the pulse of a sleeping weapon, waiting for the galaxy to make the same mistake twice. My hands trembled as I activated my recorder. "This is Observer Kale of the Threxan Combine," I whispered. Humanity's disappearance was no defeat. It was strategy. The myth of Defenseless Earth was a construct, a trap. And we've sprung it. Static swallowed my words, distorting them into digital echoes. In the reflection of my terminal, I saw something flicker behind me, a flash of red, then gone. The systems around me hummed softly, too softly, like breath. I froze. The archive terminal pulsed once, faintly, and a new message appeared on its cracked display, written in a language that hadn't been spoken for 10,000 years. "You remember. Good." Then the screen went black. I stared into the darkness, pulse racing, realization dawning like fire in my chest. We hadn't rediscovered humanity's past. We had just alerted their future. It began as a whisper in the void, not sound, but signal. At 0300 standard galactic time, every sensor array across Threxan space lit up at once. Streams of data cascaded like rivers of light, converging toward a single origin point. Sol I watched from the observation deck as the monitors filled with impossible readings. There were no ships, no propulsion trails, only a pulse, an expanding wave of energy that defied causality. It moved faster than light, bending space itself to its will. Our physicists screamed at the data, "No transmission can move this fast." But it wasn't a transmission. It was command. Within minutes, it reached the frontier worlds. Machines began to stir. Mining droids stopped mid-motion. Defense drones pivoted their cannons toward their masters. Even the atmospheric regulators, systems built from hybrid tech, part Threxan, part human, began to hum in unison. Every system that had once borrowed from humanity's extinct technology now answered to a different authority. Our fleets, our weapons, our automated industries, all infected by a single signal. No virus, no malware. Just recognition. Humanity had reclaimed what was theirs. I tried to send an emergency report to the High Council, but the comms were dead. My console flickered with static before stabilizing. Across the screen, in ancient Terran language, a single line appeared. Reactivation complete. And then, chaos. Entire battle fleets turned on themselves. Flagships opened fire on their escorts. Planetary defense cannons targeted their own cities. Worlds burned in silence, their destruction unfolding faster than we could understand. Our empire, 1,000 years of conquest, crumbled in hours. I stared helplessly as my home world, Threxar Prime, vanished from the tactical map. Gone. A crimson flare swallowed its coordinates. The reactor cores of our orbital stations had detonated in unison, not sabotage, not war, just obedience. I demanded to know who had done this, who had unleashed such power. But the truth was there, written in the code itself, deep within every line of logic, every pulse of energy that now dominated our systems. The signature matched the old archives. The same encryption patterns used in the Orion Pact War, the same handwriting of the species we once thought extinct, humans. But it wasn't rage that radiated through the network. It wasn't vengeance. It was something colder. Purpose. A broadcast followed, emerging across every comm channel, every frequency, every neural implant. The voice was unmistakably human, low, calm, almost sorrowful. You should have let us rest. The words carried no threat, yet they struck harder than any weapon. My blood turned to ice as the message continued. We left because we could not bear what we had become. We hid because you feared us, and we feared ourselves. Yet you could not leave us sleeping, and now the galaxy must remember. Then, silence again. But it was not peace. The lights across my station dimmed one by one. I could feel the faint vibration of the structure shifting, groaning as if under pressure. Outside, distant stars flickered. Or perhaps they blinked. A fleet emerged, not from hyperspace, but from the dark itself. Old human warships, their hulls scarred by time, their surfaces alive with energy veins. They didn't fly. They glided, moving with predatory stillness, surrounding the system like specters returning home. No demands. No declarations, only observation. They watched us the way gods might watch insects. And then, one by one, our systems went quiet. In the silent glow of my dying console, I understood. The humans hadn't just returned. They had never left. The galaxy's fear finally congealed into desperation. Every surviving empire, the Varn, the Selith, the Threxan remnants, gathered their fleets beyond the orbit of Pluto. The sky was filled with steel and pride. Millions of ships, billions of lives, all aimed toward a single blue world that hung in quiet defiance. I was stationed aboard the observation dreadnought Vigilance End, assigned to chronicle what was meant to be the last stand of civilization. The command channels buzzed with hollow courage. Humanity cannot be allowed to dominate again. This time we end them for good. But I heard the tremor beneath every voice. The memory of old wars, the kind you never truly survive. The Armada advanced, and then Earth responded. Not with missiles, not with fleets. The space above the planet shimmered, rippling like heat over a desert. Out of the distortion emerged shapes, titanic figures of pure energy coalescing into forms eerily familiar. They were humanoid, radiant, and calm. Their eyes burned with golden light, and their presence pressed on our minds like gravity. Some whispered that these were weapons, others that they were gods. They did nothing. They only watched. The Admiral gave the order to fire. Thousands of plasma lances and singularity torpedoes screamed toward Earth. The void erupted with fury, a storm of light and destruction. And yet, not a single impact reached its mark. Every projectile dissolved, every beam scattered as if swallowed by the very fabric of reality. Then, one of the luminous beings raised its hand. Instantly, every ship, every reactor, every engine, every weapon was died. The silence that followed was unbearable. We floated powerless, our instruments dead, our voices gone. Even thought felt heavy. Then, through the static of a dying comm system, a sound came. Not noise, words. A voice that carried across the void, soft, ancient, and unbearably human. We were never gods. Another pause. Just survivors. Their tone held no anger. Only weariness. The exhaustion of a species that had seen too much. Endured too long. The voice grew quieter, as if fading into memory. And you never learned. The beings turned their gaze toward the gathered armada. For a heartbeat, I felt the weight of their history, the pain, the fire, the unbearable loneliness of a species that had fought the galaxy and won, only to find victory hollow. Light rippled outward from them, gentle but unstoppable. It passed through our ships like a tide, erasing weapons, melting circuits, unmaking war itself. When vision returned, the constructs were gone. The fleets were intact. Yet hollow, their cores fused, their power gone. Engines would never reignite. Weapons would never function again. The galaxy had been disarmed, not destroyed. Earth hung in silence once more, serene, indifferent, eternal. And somewhere deep inside, I understood their message. Humanity had not sought revenge. They had given mercy, the cruelest kind, because they knew that to destroy us would make them monsters again. To let us live would make us remember. When the light faded, silence fell upon the stars. Our ships drifted like corpses around Sol, hollow shells reflecting the pale glow of a newborn barrier. It shimmered like liquid glass, wrapping the entire system in a cocoon of light. Sensors failed to penetrate it. No wavelength, no frequency, no mind could breach it. The humans had sealed themselves away. From my dying observation deck, I watched the barrier pulse, once, twice, before settling into perfect stillness. Then the readings vanished entirely. It was as if the Sol system had ceased to exist. Some called it divine ascension. Others called it exile. To me, it felt like judgment. We tried to approach 3 fleets, one after another. None returned. Their signals vanished the instant they touched the barrier's edge. No wreckage, no distress calls, just absence. Soon, the galaxy stopped trying. Decades passed. Empires crumbled. New civilizations rose from the ashes of the old. And through it all, the legend of Earth persisted, not as a place, but as a warning. Children learned to whisper its name only in stories. The defenseless planet, they called it. A world that had no armies yet ended wars. A people who vanished yet defined eternity. The scholars argued endlessly. Were the humans gods, demons, or something in between? The priests built temples to them. The soldiers cursed their memory. The truth blurred into myth, and myth hardened into belief. But I remember. I was there when their light consumed our sky. I felt their presence in the silence between transmissions. And even now, in this frail old body, I can still feel them watching. Sometimes, late in the orbital night, I pick up faint signals, low frequencies that hum through the static. Patterns too deliberate to be random. Rhythms like a heartbeat. I record them, though I no longer send reports. No one listens anymore, yet the signals persist, always from the same coordinates, always from Sol. Once I tried to ignore them, to live as others do, pretending the humans were gone, that their barrier was just light and not a wound in space. But the longer I listened, the more I understood. It isn't just a wall. It's a watchtower. Something inside it is awake, patient, eternal, observing. The humans didn't leave the galaxy behind. They're waiting. Perhaps for us to destroy ourselves or to become something better. And when the time comes, when the stars grow restless again, they will return. Not as conquerors. Not as saviors. As the mirror we tried to shatter. now reflecting what we've become. I end my last log here, transmitting it into the void, knowing it may never be heard. To those who come after, I whisper, remember this truth, Earth was never defenseless. It was merciful. A faint pulse flickers on my console. 3 rhythmic beats, then a single word, ancient and human, appears across the dying screen, acknowledged. And the stars go silent once more. I am old now. Older than any record should allow. The machines that sustain me hum softly in the dark, keeping my failing body tethered to existence just long enough to finish this confession. I am the last living witness, the final observer of humanity's return, and their mercy. For centuries I have hidden among the archivists on Orin Station, my name erased, my history sealed. The galaxy thinks me a myth, just as it thinks of the humans. But I remember. I remember everything. I've spent lifetimes studying what they left behind. Fragments of code, echoes of transmissions, spectral imprints within the void. Every piece whispers the same truth we all tried so hard to bury. Humanity was never our enemy. They were our mirror. We called them monsters because they refused to die quietly. Because they showed us what survival looked like when hope was gone. In the aftermath of the Great Silence, the empires rebuilt. Borders were redrawn. Peace became law, not through treaties or goodwill, but through fear of the memory that still haunted every star map. That was their gift to us. Peace enforced by remembrance. When I teach the young historians, I tell them stories, not of the war, but of the warning. How a single planet, unarmed and quiet, once made the entire galaxy kneel. Most of them laugh. They think it's just an old myth told by dying scholars, but sometimes, when the station's lights flicker and the deep sensors turn towards Seoul, I hear it again. That ancient pulse. 3 beats. A pause. And then the whisper. Do not trespass. We remember. The first time I heard it, I thought it was interference. Now I know better. It isn't a message sent to us. It's a reminder left for us. A heartbeat echoing across time. Humanity doesn't speak anymore. It doesn't need to. Its silence is enough. I look out my viewport now, where the blue star glows faintly at the edge of the void. It looks small, fragile even, just as it always did. But I know better. That fragile light ended every war worth fighting. It taught the galaxy that survival isn't strength, and destruction isn't victory. The younger races think Earth is dead, that nothing lives within the shimmering wall that seals Seoul. But sometimes, when the cosmic background hum bends ever so slightly, I swear I can feel them stir. Maybe they're watching. Maybe they're waiting. Or maybe they've simply moved beyond us, the way a parent steps back and lets a child walk alone. Still, when the dark grows too quiet, I find comfort in their words. Do not trespass. A warning, yes, but also a promise. We remember. So do I, and perhaps that is why no one attacks Earth, not because it is defenseless, but because we all remember too well what it means to survive. The transmission log ends here. My heart monitor slows. Outside, the stars flicker like distant memories, and somewhere across the eternal black, a single voice whispers again, calm, human, and eternal. Rest now. We are watching.